All right, folks. We are in the thick of things when it comes to football, okay? Monday Night Football happened last night. We got a lot to talk. Well, we really don't have a whole lot to talk about, but there is something that we do need to address. We need to address the elephant in the room. And who is that elephant in the room, folks? Joe Burrow. Yeah. Bengals fans, you're not going to like this episode, but guess what? You're going to enjoy it because it needs to be said. It needs to be addressed, okay? Andy Dalton looked like he had his swagger back, okay? Tua gets put on IR. I know that's probably old information, but we didn't talk about it last week, but we have to talk about it this week. Shedeur was a magician on the field. That's right. Hocus pocus, here, there, everywhere, won the game, okay? Justin Fields continues to win. The Jets fly off with the W. Lamar finally gets a W. Malik Willis gets his revenge. And we're going to do a new segment, Overreactions for the Week. All of this and more, okay, on the 35th episode of the Football Junkies podcast. I am your host, okay, your chief, your great poobah, your Bagrodamus, okay, chief, head of the table, chief, bag meteorologist, okay? I am all of these things and more, and I am a former GM who still is not on a team right now, but best believe I will be on one very, very, very soon. I'm all these things and more, but the most important title that I love the most, I'm your host, Kale. You already know what I'm getting ready to say. It's been a while, I know, I get it, but guess what? We have to do it, okay? On three, 1, 2, 3, let's lock in. All right, folks, let's just get into the meat and potatoes of everything that has gone so far, okay? I wasn't going to do anything about Monday Night Football, but you know what? Just because of how they lost and the team and the noise that they've been making since the start of this season, I'm gonna have to do it. Okay, now this is going to turn into somewhat of a quick little rant, but it needs to be said. Okay, so the Bengals lost last night. Yeah, the Bengals lost to the Commanders last night. Now, if you would have told me that the Bengals would have lost last night, I probably would have called you a liar. I definitely would have. Jaden Daniels was lighting it up. Okay, lighting it up every single time they were hiking the ball. Every single time that he was dropping back, he was making a play. Okay, he showed a lot last night. He really did. This is, if you're a Commanders fan, you have to love what you saw last night. Okay, but I think we need to really get into the nooks and crannies of everything, because honestly speaking, here we need to have a conversation about Joe Burrow. You know, because I think it's time that we do so, because Joe Burrow has been trash, absolute trash, and I say that in the most respectful way I possibly can. He has been absolute trash. Okay, now I'm going to read these stats off, and I want you to just, try to paint a picture in your head of how you think the game turned out. Okay. So Jaden Daniels was 21 for 23, 254 yards, 2 touchdowns. He averaged 11 yards per attempt and a 91.3 completion percentage, okay? Joe Burrow was 29 for 38, 324 yards, 3 touchdowns, 8.5 yards per attempt, and a 76.3 completion percentage. Now, when we look at those stats, you're probably thinking, oh, Joe Burrow, put up some pretty good numbers and whatnot, and they probably won the game. No, they didn't. Jaden Daniels won. Now, there was a moment in time where it looked like the Bengals could have made a comeback, but they didn't. They failed once again. And, if you are a Bengals fan, I don't want to hear no excuses. I don't want to hear any more excuses. I don't. Because you know why? If this is any other quarterback, if this is Lamar, if this is Daniel Jones, if this is Dak Prescott, if this is Josh Allen, if this is Justin Herbert, if this is any other quarterback, everyone is saying, oh, there's no excuses for their play. There's no excuses for their performance and whatnot. They are supposed to be, the one that can, carry the team on their back and lead them to victory and whatnot. So why Joe Burrow hasn't done that yet? Why? And granted, I again don't want to hear no excuses. I do not want to hear any excuses, because you know why? This man literally carried a Bengals team who statistically had the one of the worst offensive lines in NFL history. Carry them to a Super Bowl. Almost won such Super Bowl, right? And since then, everybody has just been trying to feast on that Super Bowl run when it's gone. It's gone. Listen, the confetti has already been dropped. The celebrations have already concluded. The trophies are already in the players' offices and houses of in residence and whatever the case may be. Okay, the fact of the matter is, since that Super Bowl run and since he's gotten his deal, he has not shown a whole lot. He has actually regressed a whole lot, if we're being real here. And that's something that I don't think not a lot of people want to talk about. If you're getting paid the amount of money that Joe Burrow is getting paid, you need to step up to the plate. You need to step up to the plate, because the fact of the matter is, Jaden Daniels was doing his thing. Okay, he was doing his thing. If I'm not mistaken, and someone can fact check me for me if they want to, the Commanders never punted the ball last night. Even on fourth down, they were still going for it. That's just the mentality that Jaden Daniels has. And granted, I understand it's still the season is still it's still very early and all those different types of things. But at some point, you have to win a game. Okay, you are in the business of football is winning games. Okay, winning games can determine if you get another contract, if you get another opportunity, if you get another chance, all those different types of things. And when you're not winning, that's a stain on you, right? And what you cannot do is continue to have a fan base and to have media personalities that want to try to give Joe Burrow and the Bengals bail. When whole time, if we're being real here, they've been talking a whole lot of smack this offseason, and especially the start of this season. They've been yapping off. So now that you got punched in the mouth and you've been getting punched in the mouth, it's time for y'all to step up. It is. I don't want to hear any more excuses for Joe Burrow. I do not. You got paid. You got paid top dollar. Okay, you are tied of being you was being before Dak Prescott got his deal, but you were tied with Trevor Lawrence as being the highest paid quarterbacks. And since you guys have gotten that deal, you guys have not done jack diddly squat. You haven't. You have regressed dramatically. And if we're being real here, that this team right now for the Bengals, they are not going to win a whole lot of games. They are not. And I don't want to hear, oh, he might be hurt, or, oh, I was dealing with a lingering injury and whatnot. Oh, I don't think my wrist was 100%, healed, but I still went out there and tried to play because I care about my teammates and I want to win. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it anymore. The time is now to cut out the excuses for Joe Burrow. It is over. It is over. Okay? It's time that people have real conversations about Joe Burrow and his performance. It is lackluster. It is not good enough. He needs to do more. That offense has to do more. And if we're being real here, if they do not do more, heads are going to roll. Heads are going to roll. People are going to lose their jobs. People are going to lose their jobs because since that Super Bowl run, it's starting to look like a fluke. Everything. It's starting to look like a fluke. Even when you look on the defensive side, there's not a whole lot on the defense. It's not. You have Trey Hendrickson, who, honestly speaking, he probably doesn't even really want to be there because he's looking for more money. He was looking for more money. He even said during the offseason, if I don't get paid, I'm going to retire. They still haven't done it. I don't know why he's still doing it, but I mean, hey, that's them. But the fact of the matter is, the Bengals, are put on this high pedestal by media personalities and by everybody else. I don't see it. I don't see it personally, and they're in my. I don't see it. I don't know which average quarterback. Okay, how is it that Andy Dalton was able to get a W for the Panthers before the Bengals? How is that? How is that? And mind you, the Panthers went up against the Raiders, who, if we're being real here, the Raiders are not a team that you just take lightly for. They have some pieces on that team. So I don't understand what's going on with the Bengals. I don't know what's going on with Joe Burrow. I don't know if it's the hair dye that must have gotten to his brain and whatnot, but whatever it is not good, folks. It is not good at all. Now, off of my soapbox, let's get into the other stuff that really needs to be talked about, needs to be addressed, okay? Andy Dalton looked like Andy Dalton, okay? Andy Dalton put on a show. He did his thing. He proved why the Panthers should roll with him moving forward, possibly the rest of the season, honestly. And how can I say this? How can I say this? How can I say this? Bingo, got it. Light bulb just came on. We have to give a little bit of grace to Bryce Young, because Bryce Young was put into a situation where he there's not a whole lot of growth, right? There's not a lot of opportunities for him to grab. Well, you know what? No, I scratch that. I can't do it. Andy Dalton did his thing. Andy Dalton did his thing. Okay, let me just read you the stats. His stat line: 26 for 37, 319 yards, 3 touchdowns. He averaged 8.6 yards per attempt, and he had a 70.3 completion percentage, right? On top of that, here are some junky nuggets, okay? Chuba Hubbard finished the game with 21 carries for 114 yards. Deontay finished the game with 8 receptions for 122 yards and 1 touchdown. And Andy Dalton's last game that had a similar stat line to this was last year, week 3. You know what that stat line was? 34 for 58, 361 yards, 2 touchdowns, according to NFL Pro. Shout out to NFL Pro. Now, listen, I get it. Andy Dalton is a veteran, so he's seen a lot of things. He himself has somewhat been in somewhat of a similar situation that Bryce Young has been in, right? Because a lot of times, a lot of those Bengals teams, they were not that good. Now, listen, they were a team that they could give you a good whooping, okay, and they can win, but they're not this super dominant team that is going to strike fear into the hearts of men. No, that's not what they were. Okay, that's just not. So Andy Dalton, he's been around the block for a while, so he knows he knows some things. He knows how to win with less and all those different types of things, and he made do with what he had, and they won the game. That's just what it is. Case in point. Now, I know there was an article that came out from Adam Schefter, saying that there were teams that were interested in probably trading for Bryce Young, unless it's a team like that comes from the Sean McVay tree or the Kyle Shanahan tree, and even then I wouldn't trust a whole lot of teams unless it's the Rams directly or the 49ers directly. I don't really trust anybody else going after Bryce Young. Bryce Young is a project. That is a project. And if you do not have the right coaching, in place, and if you do not have everything else, offensive line, some weapons, and a good run game, you're going to see the exact same thing that the Panthers saw with Bryce Young. And granted, Bryce Young didn't ask to be put in this situation. He didn't. You have an incompetent owner who is very sporadic, who is basically somewhat of, I would say, the more the more unstable version of Jerry Jones. That's the best way to describe David Tepper. David Tepper is someone who he made a reckless decision. He made a very reckless decision, in choosing to get Bryce Young and not, not surround him with some good talent, good weapons, and all those different types of things. And he struggled. And then not to mention the coach. I mean, it's a plethora of different things that play a role in the demise of Bryce Young. And it's that it opens up to a bigger conversation. And quite frankly, I'm not going to be the one to do it because I'm not a Panthers fan. And quite frankly, I don't think nobody really cares about the Panthers at this point. Now, moving on to Tua. Tua gets put on the IR. Now, if you don't know what IR, that means that he is going to be out for a minimum of 4 games, but he can be out longer. When we look at this, it's definitely the right decision to be made simply because the Dolphins are in a situation now where they are in limbo. Okay, they are trying to figure out exactly what are they going to do moving forward. Right, they are trying to figure out if they are going to continue to move forward with Tua, or are they going to have to make a business decision and possibly move off of him and then figure something else. Right? That's the situation that they're in at this point. And so basically what they said was, listen, you take the time all you need, see all the doctors that you need to see, get all the testing done and all those different types of things, so that guess what? Once we get all the information that we need, we can come down, we can make a decision on if we want to continue to move forward with you or if we're going to suggest that you possibly medically retire. That's it. That's all that needs to be said. There doesn't need to be no, oh man, I think he should possibly retire. Listen, you're not a doctor. You don't know. You don't know. Granted, we've seen a lot of head injuries with him. Who knows? Maybe he doesn't have any CTE at all. Maybe, it really hasn't affected his brain or anything. But until those reports come out, all of us, especially football fans and especially Dolphins fans, just have to wait and see what happens at this point. Now, moving on to Justin Fields, okay? Justin Fields, my guy, my man, 50 grand, okay? Because you know why? The sixth time. I'm not even gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it. I was actually gonna name this episode Victory Monday, but I'm not gonna do it. I'm not. Well, you know what? I still might. I'm rambling. Who cares? Justin Fields has been doing. He's been doing his thing. Now, I'm not saying he's been lighting up and having 3 touchdowns and 2 touchdowns. I'm not saying those different types of things, but this past Sunday was probably his best game so far. I probably say so. He, scored 2 touchdowns. He ran one in, and then he threw one to Calvin Austin, which was actually really good. But let's get off with this stat line though. Okay, so Justin Fields was 25 for 32, 245 yards. They say 1 touchdown, but technically it was 2 touchdowns because one of them was a rushing touchdown. 1 interception. He averaged 7.7 yards per attempt, and he had a 78.1 completion percentage. Now, coming into this game, a lot of people, like myself, definitely had a feeling that this was going to be somewhat of an old school street fight on the field. This was going to be a very slow pace, physical game. This wasn't going to be a high flying, oohs and ahs type of game. This is going to be an old school type of game where whose run game is going to win, whose defensive line and offensive line is going to to win the time of possession. And originally, well, not originally, but at first it was the Chargers. The Chargers were doing their thing at first, but then as the second half started and whatnot, and the Steelers were able to make adjustments and whatnot, the Steelers did their thing. They did their thing. That's just what it is. It's nothing, super crazy. It's nothing like, oh man, they were just dominant from the first quarter to the fourth quarter. No. Okay? They did their thing. They've been actually doing a pretty good job. I think the only knock with them, well, actually, you know what? No. I'll save that. I'll save that for the overreaction. Well, you know what? No. I'll talk about it. The only thing with the Steelers is they start slow, right? And sometimes when you start slow, it can hurt you more than help you, right? And I get it. Not every team, starts the game guns blazing and whatnot. But you gotta have some oomph, right? Because if you started off early in the game, you can ride with that and you can carry that all the way to the end of the game, right? Instead of waiting till the second half to make the adjustments and switch up your play calling and move this player over here and move that player over there and do all those different types of things, because there's going to come a time and point where you won't be able to do those type of things in the second half, right? And from the outside looking in, because I'm not trying to be a somewhat of a fanboy. The Steelers got to put more. They have to be able to go down. They have to be able to march down the field, right? They have to be able to dictate the line of scrimmage first. They have to, because if they don't, things look great now, right? Because you're not facing a whole lot of competition and whatnot. But I guarantee you, when that second half of the season starts, you got to make sure that the things that you're having problems with now are not a recurring problem when it comes to that second half of the season. Because I keep saying it, that second half of the season is going to be a gauntlet. It is going to be a gauntlet. It was going to be a storm. Okay, it is going to be a 12-round fight, not a boxing match, but a fight, because you're going to have to go up against some of your division rivals, and then the Chiefs, and then the Eagles and whatnot. And that's not even counting if any of those teams may make, any crazy trades and whatnot for somebody, by the end of the trade deadline. So you just have to, clean up, the small things, because the small things can become big things later down the road, right? And, if we can be real here, Justin Fields has been playing, really good supplemental football. I feel like they've sort of like put a cap on what they can do with Justin Fields. I feel like they're saving a lot of the dynamic play calling and whatnot for Russ. But if I'm Mike Tomlin or if I'm Arthur Smith, I'm just redirecting that to Justin Fields, because they're playing you're playing with the hot hand, and the hot hand is Justin Fields. That's just what it is. We don't know the extent of this injury with Russell Wilson. It sounds like it's a little bit more severe than what people are saying, or they're just erring the side of caution because they know that hamstring injuries, they're very hit and miss, right? You can have one this week, and then you'll be good after 2 weeks, and the next thing you re-aggravate it, and it's actually worse than when you originally had it. Like, so many different things can happen. Okay, and so they just want to err the side of caution, which is perfectly fine, because again, this was a game where the Steelers were going to be primarily running the ball, and that's exactly what they did. Now, when we look at the Chargers side, though, they really wasn't doing a whole lot. J.K. Dobbins had 15 attempts for 44 yards. He averaged 2.9 rushing yards per carry. That's not good. And that's, mind you, that's coming off of the two monster games that they had not too long ago. So, they just, it was like two Rams. Okay, if you've ever seen, the National Geographic or Animal Planet, when they go in the wild and they see, two Rams just butting heads and to see who's gonna be the last one standing. That's basically what it was. And the Steelers started to chip away and chip away and chip away and chip away until they finally got him. And once they finally got him, they just went for it, and they never looked back. And then, unfortunately, you have Justin Herbert to re-aggravate his ankle and whatnot. So, all in all, yes, you can celebrate it as a victory, but at the same time, we have to err the side of caution, because again, we have seen this before. We have seen it where, in 2020, we were undefeated and whatnot. Oh man, everything's going great. Whoa, 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 whoa. And the next thing you know, guess what happens? We choke. We choke against the Browns. Let's all relax. 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 Let's just calm down for a bit. Let's celebrate the victories, but at the same time, let's also be mindful of who we are going up against. Okay? Cool. Thank you, Steelers fans. Now, moving on to Shedeur. Okay? Shedeur was being a magician, okay? He was being a true magician. He was doing his thing. He really was, okay? Let's just get into these stats, okay? He was 25 for 41, 341 yards. He had a 61% completion rate. He averaged 8.3 yards per attempt, and he had 2 touchdowns. That's actually pretty good, right? Compared to the other 2 quarterbacks on Baylor's team. Sawyer Robertson was 32 for 50 for 463 yards, a 64 completion percentage, 9.3 yards per attempt, 3 touchdowns. And Daquan Finn was 23 for 43, 307 yards, a 53.5 completion percentage, 7.1 yards per attempt, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks. Now, when we look at this, Shedeur in that offense, they're doing their thing. They're starting to find a rhythm, which is great. But I feel like they should start to really rely more on the run. Because I think if they rely more on the run, I think it would open things up a little bit more, while at the same time, wear down a defense. Because at some point, the defensive line is going to get tired. And when they get tired, that's when you attack. That's when you go all out and you make sure that you don't leave no stone unturned. And, Colorado is going to be Colorado, okay? They're going to have their highs. They're going to have their lows. They're going to have their in-betweens. But all in all, it's going to be a team that everybody's going to want to watch. That's just who they are. That's just their identity. It's not going to change, okay? Now, if Shedeur continues to, put the numbers that he's putting and he continues to do dynamic things, then there could be a case where he could possibly, win the Heisman and whatnot. But, it's still early. We just gotta wait and see what happens and whatnot. And hopefully they make it to the playoffs and whatnot. So it's still a wait and see situation for them as well. Now, moving forward, okay, we gotta talk. Well, wait a minute. Do we want to talk about the Jets? We want to talk about Lamar. Let's talk about the Jets first. Then we get into the greatness. Okay, the greatness of the Cowboys losing this weekend. Okay. So the Jets went up against the Patriots on Thursday, and it was a beating. It was a beating, okay? It looked like Jacoby Brissett was getting jumped every single time that he was hiking the ball. Big Bloody Bill from up the hill did not do anything to help this Patriots offense. Oh my God, this is horrible. This is absolutely. Jacoby Brissett was getting beat up by that Jets defensive line, and they couldn't do anything about it. They couldn't stop it. They could not stop it, not one bit. So, if I am a Patriots fan and if I am the Patriots, GM, I would probably go after, somebody from LSU, Will Campbell. And I probably would, draft that and let that be my top pick at this point, because you need to invest into the offensive line. It's time. It's time for you to invest into the offensive line. It's time for you to bring in some real productive offensive lineman players and not just get people, from just here, there, everywhere, and then try to put it together and make it say, oh, this is a good offensive line and whatnot. No, it's time for you to invest some real money, real draft picks, and whatever else you need to into this offensive line, because Drake May pretty soon is going to be starting, and he's going to need to be protected. If he's not protected, he's not going to last long. He's going to take a beating, and you do not want that. Now, on the other hand, for Aaron Rodgers was actually looking pretty good. He was. I'm not saying he looked like his old self or, oh, this looks like something great. No, I'm not doing that. Let's pump the brakes. Let's relax. Let's calm down. Let's take a breather. Let's drink our water. Okay, let's just relax. Okay. that the Jets run game looks really lethal. Okay, that two-handed, not two-handed, but that two-headed monster in Braylon Allen and Brees Hall, that's going to do some damage leading in I can't even speak, it's definitely the coffee, leading into the second half of the season. That is what they're going to need. They're going to need those two to be very, very, very productive, because if they don't, I can't say that this Jets offense is going to be, super productive and whatnot. I just can't. But let's just get into these stats. Okay, so Aaron Rodgers was 27 for 35, 281 yards, 2 touchdowns, 8 yards per attempt, and a 77.1 completion percentage. Jacoby Brissett, on the other hand, was 12 for 18, 98 yards, 5.4 yards per attempt, and a 66.7 completion percentage. Now, the only reason why his stats were that low was because I think they pulled him in the later part of the game. And if we're being real here, that Jets defensive line, they were going after them. The Patriots offensive line could not hold their blocks. They could not hold their own. And Jacoby Brissett was the sacrificial lamb in this, unfortunately. And that's just what it is. But let's get into these junky nuggets, okay? So the Jets blitzed Jacoby Brissett 40% of his dropbacks, which is the highest under the Robert Saleh era. Okay, that speaks a lot for itself. Okay, that means that they knew that, listen, this Patriots offensive line is not that strong. We can blitz heavy, we can go after them, and we can just attack Jacoby Brissett every single time. Now, the Patriots missed more tackles against the Jets than in the first 2 weeks combined, right? Not to mention, okay, Christian Gonzalez lined up against Garrett Wilson 88% of the time and pressed him 43% of the time, right? Wilson caught 4 of 8 passes. Christian Gonzalez has lined up against Jamar Chase, DK Metcalf, and now Garrett Wilson on 70% of their routes and has allowed less than 25 yards. Let me tell you something here, folks, okay? Let me get real close to the mic. Let me tell you guys something, okay? I was super heavy on Christian Gonzalez, okay? Your back row Damas told his friends and fellow colleagues that Christian Gonzalez was going to be a beast, okay? And that is what you are seeing right now. You are seeing almost the second coming of Stephon Gilmore on this team right now. That's what you're seeing. And guess what? The Steelers could have had him. But no, the Steelers did not want them because of his quote-unquote character and that he was quiet and whatnot. Do you know why he's quiet? Because he is a monster on that field. A monster. You mean to tell me you lined up against some of the best receivers in the league and you have allowed less than 25 yards on all of these fools? That is something that only Darrelle Revis and Stephon Gilmore in their primes can do. Steelers fans, look at this. It's not good. It's a bad stain on us. Now, back to the old analogies and all those different types of things. Now, when we look at this, the Patriots still have a lot to go through. They still have a lot of building that they have to do. They are still going through the blows and just the process of a rebuild. It's nasty. It's not good. It's all those things wrapped up in a bow. But guess what? Every team has to go through this, and on the other side is greatness. Maybe, possibly, don't know. Not a Patriots fan. Don't really care about that. They messed up with the Steelers a lot of times when we have the killer bees. Moving forward, though, Lamar finally gets a W. Finally, woohoo! Celebrate, confetti, woohoo! All those different types of things. Blah, 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 blah. No, not really, because they almost lost. Okay, the Cowboys was making a late comeback. They was definitely doing their thing. And if I'm a Ravens fan, I'm not happy. I am not happy at all, because there was a moment in time where this team, where the game looked like it was starting to get out of hand, and it was basically going to be a blowout. You're gonna start seeing people leave and everything, but nope. Dak Prescott with his magical $60 million powers came back and almost won the game. Well, almost tied the game up. That's not good. That is not good, okay? But let's get into these stats, though, okay? So Lamar, 12 for 15, 182 yards, one touchdown, 12.1 yards per attempt, and 80% completion percentage. Okay. Now, when you're probably looking at this, you're probably thinking, "Oh man, that's a horrible game." It's only because they were running the ball all the time. Okay. Because when you have King Henry of the Henry family, 25 attempts for 151 yards, 6 yards per carry, and he had 5 rushes of 10 or more yards. Legend. Enough said. CeeDee Lamb, on the other hand, 7 targets for 4 receptions, 67 yards, 16.8 receiving yards per reception. And Dak, 28 for 51, 379 yards, 2 touchdowns, 7.4 yards per attempt, and 54.9% completion percentage. Now, when we look at this, right, and let's just be honest here, let's just really just address the elephant in the room here, okay? This Cowboys roster probably has to be one of the worst rosters that we have seen in a very long time. And the reason why I say that is because the Ravens literally ran up the middle. They basically did halfback dive multiple times, over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And guess what? The Cowboys couldn't stop it. Not once. They could not stop it. When we look at this, you know, the way that they handled their free agency and especially their offseason, it's backfired. It's backfired and it's hurt them more than help them, because when you look at it, what in the world are you going to be able to do with this defensive line? What? Nothing. You can't do anything with it. You have Mozzie Smith, who's starting to look like a bust with the Cowboys. Maybe he'll have a resurgence somewhere else. You have an old Linval Joseph. You have, you know, D-Law, who I couldn't tell you what D-Law has done lately. I haven't seen him. I think he's a ghost. He may not be real. I don't know. And then you have Micah Parsons, who's basically being put, you know, here, there, everywhere on the line, and he's still not getting through. He's still not making any plays. So it's a very tough situation. You know, it really is. And, you know, Jerry wants the credit. He wants the credit when he's right, when he's winning, when he's winning, when his team is being dominant, and all those different types of things. But when the lights get a little bit too bright, and this team does not show up, and this team does not win games, oh, everybody wants to be quiet. Everybody wants to point fingers at everybody. Everybody wants to say, oh, it's your fault that we didn't do this, or it's your fault that we didn't do that. The fact of the matter is, this team is trash. This team can not only compete in their own division, but they cannot go up against a team like the Lions, like the 41. I don't know about the 49ers. The 49ers are just banged up. Any of those NFC teams, they can't hold their own against them. Because why? Everybody knows that guess what you can do to the Cowboys? Run the ball. Run the ball. You could literally run the ball all game long. Okay? It's like that one Lionel Richie song, All Night Long. That is who the Cowboys defensive line is, because it's horrible. They can't stop the run. They can barely do anything with their pass rush. Their secondary is And what else? What else? It's a very bad roster all around. And, you know, a lot of that has to deal with, you know, 2 players that were, you know, looking for contracts. Now, one of them showed up to training camp because he has to, because he's the quarterback, and the other decided that he wanted to sit out as long as he possibly could. And now look what it has resulted in. Another L. Either way you look at it, the players, you know, pointing fingers and sending subliminals to each other is not going to help them get a win, okay? They have to lock in, and they have to try to win the best way that they possibly can. Use the strengths of the team, even though they don't have a whole lot of strengths because they are the Cowboys, and just try to win. Now, I just made it seem like it was super easy, but really it's not. But honestly, do not care about the Cowboys. I know pretty soon we face the Cowboys. And when that happens, and when we beat the Cowboys, just know we're going to have an entire episode dedicated to that game. You heard it here first. Now, moving forward, Malik Willis gets his revenge. Da-da-da. He finally gets his revenge, right? So, let's be real here. That entire situation with the Titans and whatnot, really wasn't the best. It just wasn't. And if we can be real here, honestly, you know, I know there were a lot of people that were saying, "Oh, we've never seen this version of Malik Willis before. Oh, Malik Willis is doing a lot of things." Malik Willis is, is being put into a situation where he's actually valued, where the team actually, wants to embrace him and they're actually going to work with him, compared to the Titans, where basically they were pushing out their old veteran quarterback, Ryan Tannehill, go home, and they were bringing in Mr. Mayonnaise in Will Levis, who has Mayo Cologne, which that's just, ugh, ugh, ooh. Oh my God. I just go on this tangent. Imagine you going into a restaurant, right? And you're just like, I smell mayonnaise. Is that what is that smell? What is that smell? And you look to the side of you and your buddy has on that new Will Levis cologne. And what does it smell like? Mayonnaise. That is disgusting. Okay, that is nasty. That is horrible. Put it in the trash. Throw it away, okay? Because that's just atrocious. Now, back to the game. I just had to say that. I just had to, because it's just, oh man, this is nasty. This is nasty. It's atrocious. Now, Malik Willis was 13 for 19, 202 yards, 1 touchdown, 10.6 yards per attempt, and a 68.4 completion percentage. Now, when we look at Will Levis, 26 for 34, 260 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, 7.6 yards per attempt, and a 76.5 completion percentage. Now, when we look at this here, folks, the Titans are in a situation where they are still somewhat going through a rebuild. They're still trying to, work out all the tinks and whatnot of their roster and whatnot. But at the same time, Malik, in my personal opinion, I feel like they should have really tried to do a real competition between Malik Willis and Will Levis. But at the same time, you sort of had the feeling that they were going to favor Will Levis anyway, simply because he was winning games when they did put him in, right? They actually started to, embrace and surround Will Levis moving forward, compared to trying to figure out who was going to be the person moving forward. And then it also didn't help that they brought in Mason Rudolph in for free agency. So it's like, if you're Malik Willis, you're really behind the gun. So for you to get put into a situation where you're with the Packers, it's somewhat of a breath of fresh air. It is. And, he did his thing. He did just enough. He did what he was tasked to do. He didn't go overboard. He didn't try to be Mr. Superman. He didn't try to be the hero. He got the job done. Okay. Now, if you're the Titans, you're trying to figure out exactly what do you want to do moving forward, especially with Will Levis, because Will Levis, he's been struggling. They have surrounded him with weapons. They got Tony Pollard, and then they got Calvin Ridley. They still have Traylon Burks. They got Tyler Boyd. Like, they have weapons on that team. So I'm just trying to figure out exactly what's going on. But again, this is the growing pains that a team has to go through when you are going through the rebuild that they are going through. Now, on to the final topic, okay? We're going to do something different. It's called Overreactions, right? Originally, that was actually going to be the title, but nah, I just decided to scrap it. We're going to do Wheeling and Dealing. Yes, Wheeling and Dealing, all right? Now, these are just some of the overreactions that I have, okay? So, Steelers being undefeated, Kalen Williams struggling, the 49ers struggling, Eagles ain't flying. Yes, I said ain't. And the Ravens having troubles. Yes. So, let's start with the Steelers. That's right, the 6th time. No, I'm not going to do it. I was going to do it. Not going to do it. The future, AFC, champions of, the 2024 season, Pittsburgh Steelers, not going to do it. Not going to do it. Not going to do it. The Steelers being undefeated, everybody just needs to relax, okay? Relax. I want you to take a deep breath in me. And then woosah. And then woosah. Relax, okay? We went up against the Falcons, who had Kirk Cousins, who came off of a major injury. We had a rookie. We went up against a rookie quarterback in Bo Nix and a Broncos team that, it's the Broncos. And then you went up against the Chargers. The Chargers have probably been, so far right now, the most competition that they've probably had to go up against, since the season has started. Now, as the season progresses, you'll go up against certain teams like the Colts. That's a game that I'm really looking forward to. Okay, that's a game I'm really looking forward to. But to say that oh, this is great that we're undefeated and whatnot, no. Okay, you don't. Just because you're undefeated does not mean that you are the best team. Now, I will say this: the defense is doing their part. They're holding their own. I'm not really worried about the defense. It is, as usual, it's the offense. The offense has to pick things up more. Okay, they have to do more. They have to. Otherwise, they're going to be put in a situation where it can be a late season situation where you need to win the game, and the offense isn't clicking. And the defense is doing their thing. The defense could be putting them in great field position and everything, and the offense just can't get it done. That's not good enough. That's just not good enough. Now, when we look at Caleb Williams and his struggles and whatnot, he's a rookie. He's a rookie. He's going through the growing pains and whatnot of the NFL. And if we can be real here, I don't think that coaching staff is going to be there for too long. I think they're going to scrap I can't speak. I think they're going to scrap the coaching, just the entire coaching as a whole. I'm talking about from the head coach to the OC and whatnot. And I think they're just going to go in a different direction. And I think they're really going to get an offensive-minded head coach for Caleb Williams. And just because I think they're really trying to rewrite their wrongs in how they handle the situation with Justin Fields. And so I think they're now trying to do things a little bit different with Caleb Williams. Now, still, I mean, Caleb is going to go through this. He's going to struggle. That is a rookie. Now, I understand there's people that are saying, well, the Bears should have drafted Jaden Daniels. Who's to say that he would get the same outcome as Jaden Daniels has been getting? Who is to say that? Nobody can. So, just again, relax, calm down, cool down, man. Get some water. Okay. Now the 49ers struggles, that is due in part to the Madden curse. Now, if you don't know what the Madden curse is, anytime a player is on the Madden cover, mysterious things happen in that season. It's just weird, right? It literally, you can pull it up and you can look at it. It's a real thing. Christian McCaffrey is in Germany right now, looking to get support for his Achilles. Gravedigger is out with a torn pec. The offense isn't really looking that good except for Jawan Jennings. Brandon Ayuk is who? Gone? A ghost? I don't know. Never seen him before. Never heard of him before. And it's a tough situation. It is a very tough situation for the 49ers right now. I don't think they expected to go through the growing pains that they're going through right now. And, a lot of their star players are banged up and they're going to be out for a while. So, I would not be surprised if they will be in the market for a defensive tackle to replace Gravedigger. Because now you don't have Eric. Well, wait a minute. Do they have Eric? No, you don't have Eric Armstead. And you don't have DeForest Buckner. And now you don't have Gravedigger. Now, granted, they have, they do have some other good players, but you're still going to need somebody else to be paired with them, right? 49ers, you're going to have to do something here, player. You're going to have to do something here, player. You're going to have to do something. Now, the Eagles ain't flying. Yes, it is true. The Eagles aren't flying. The Eagles are gliding or just walking, whatever you want to call it. The Eagles are, they're going through their bumps and bruises because, again, it's a new offense that's being installed and a lot of turnover has happened. Jason Kelce has retired and whatnot. So it's still a lot of, trying to get used to all those different types of things, right? Not to mention, the whole controversy over the offseason where, Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts were beefing and whatnot and, all those different types of things. And, if we're being real here, Nick Sirianni's seat is hot. If they do not have a great season this year, he's gone. He is gone. 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 Now, we'll say this, the bright light in all of this is they hit when they went after and they got Saquon Barkley, unlike some GMs that didn't want to do that and didn't want to pay them because they didn't want to value them. But that's another story for another day. Now, again, this all takes time. The season is still fairly, early and whatnot. So these things happen. Some teams go through the bumps and bruises early so that, once the rest of the season, goes through and whatnot, they are prepared, they are ready, and, they are dominant. So who knows? Same thing with the Ravens, right? The Ravens finally got a W, which is great. But at the same time, the expectations are a little bit higher for them on both sides of the ball because this roster is ready to win a Super Bowl, right? You don't make the type of moves that the Ravens have made if you're not going to compete for a Super Bowl. I'm just sorry. You're just not going to do that. But, all these different types of things, it's a wait and see. Just got to give it some time, okay? The season, as I continue to say for myself and to other people, the season is still fairly early. You got to play the waiting game, okay? Come back to me around Thanksgiving, okay? When we start cutting the turkey. Then we can have a really more in-depth conversation, okay? But I'm going to end it here. If you guys like what you guys are listening to, please leave a 5-star review. As always, I love you guys. I appreciate you guys so much for being with me on this journey, okay? You can listen to this on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere that you guys get your podcast fix, okay? Wherever it is, okay? Now, to my YouTube people, like, share, subscribe, turn the notification bell on, leave a comment down below, all those great things and more, okay? Let me know your thoughts on Lamar and the Ravens doing their thing and Joe Burrow being a bum and Dak Prescott, doing Dak things. I think that's just the best way to say it. What else? Oh, I forgot all the other stuff I got to do. You can follow us on Instagram at football_junkiespod. Again, that is football_junkiespod. Our link tree is on there. You guys can click on that link tree and it'll take you to anywhere else, any of our other, taglines, any of our other pages and whatnot, whether it be the YouTube, the TikTok, or anywhere else. Now, for the YouTube people, you can follow us on there, Football Junkies Pod. Again, that is Football Junkies Pod. And for my TikTok people, right? Football_Junkies Pod, because it is not what? It is together, not spaced. Yes, you are correct, my fellow junkies. Now, as always, I hope I gave you guys the fix that you guys need. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys so much. As always, I will keep you guys posted on anything crazy that is going to be happening. Hopefully, I can give you guys more content coming soon. Still learning a few things. Still trying to get more analytical and more playbooky-ish with, all this different types of stuff. But just know this. Keep your eyes on what's going on this season. And just know a lot of changes are going to be happening soon for this podcast moving forward. And it's going to be great for you guys. As always, I love you guys. I appreciate you guys so much. Peace and love. I'm out.